Officials have confirmed only 3 approved survival protocols. Like, comment, subscribe. This is an emergency broadcast.
I'm not sure where your education came from, but they lied to you.
Stats don't lie, though. How does that feel, by the way?
At this time, officials have confirmed only 3 approved survival protocols. Like, comment, subscribe. An extinction level event is now imminent. Attention. This is an emergency broadcast. If you can hear this, run! Run for your lives! The world has chosen the nuclear reaction.
is scary.
This is the nuclear reaction.
Sir, with all due respect, bro, I promise you would not be smacking anybody in real life. Listen, sir. Anywhere, any place, I would say the same thing I said to you up here. You're an idiot, you're dumb, and you're un-American, you're uneducated, and your IQ is around 50. You're mad at me because I'm smarter than you. You're mad at me because I'm better than you in every single way. You're mad at me because I'm more eloquent than you. That's why you're mad at me. Just admit it. That's why you're really mad at me, sir. Feels good to be back. Happy Monday, everyone tuning into the Nuclear Reaction episode 11. We are going to have a special guest actually joining us here on video. If you are watching on X or YouTube, he is a black activist, wrote a book on black supremacy, again, from the sort of BLM side of things. And so we're going to give him some time to join up on the show and hopefully, obviously, have a pretty interesting conversation. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, especially because he's going to be joining on video. I want things to be obviously more immersive with everything. So yeah, let's make sure we check up on him. Hopefully he comes through. Because the last guy that messaged me on Instagram, who had not like a big following, but like a decent following, pulled out. He was like, hey, I want to debate you and this and that. And I was like, hey, man, let's set it up. You can join. You can have your camera and everything like that. And he backed out. But hopefully this guy is going to tune in and not, run away like the last guy. I have hope. I have hope in him. So, yeah. So for everyone tuning in, we're waiting on a sort of BLM. I don't want to like mischaracterize him because I don't know too much about him. But it says here, educator, martial artist, activist, author, world traveler. He also wrote a book titled Black Supremacy, which is kind of a interesting title of a book. I haven't read his book. I don't think most of us here have read his book, to be honest. But given what he says, he's been on the Sean Kelly show. His name is Dr. William Dion James. Okay, perfect. Dr. William Dion James. That's his thing. Interesting. Okay, perfect. Well, he's a doctor. I'm not a doctor of any sort. I can't say Dr. Matt Nuclear. I can't say that. I'm not a doctor. He's a doctor. So maybe he's going to educate me. He's also an educator. So maybe he can tell us about his perspective and sort of the radical leftist sort of position. Because he's an educated black man with a doctorate. Okay? So he's going to really stick it to me with my ignorance, all right? Because I just don't know what I'm talking about here, apparently. So we'll get into it. ByteDan says, I voted as a registered Democrat in Florida primaries against all of the DSA candidates. Great. That's amazing. We have DSA candidates in Florida. That's interesting. That's new to me. We actually do? Who are some of the DSA candidates that we have here in Florida? Can you guys tell me? What's with the Grok chats? Over 2 billion people use like Chat GPT. Are you surprised that someone uses Grok? The Grok chats are me talking to Grok, man. I mean, I don't know what you want me to say. Put the fries in the back and hop on the 6. No, the Grok lore. I'm surprised. I'm confused. Angie Nixon went to pro-Palestinian protests. Oh. I went to on Jubilee is not a good look, my boy. One, let's just note a few things. You work as a team. It's not like I'm the only person debating or anything. And there's a lot of factors that go into it, like having leftist, biased fact checkers that are using AI that aren't actually doing the research and that take like 2 minutes to search something up without context. So no, yeah. I know for a fact your hates use AI to text their girlfriends. Okay, you didn't necessarily write that correctly, but I get what you mean. Yeah, people use AI for all sorts of different things. Anyone who's saying like, oh, like you used Grok? Yeah, dude, I use Grok. I've used Grok. I've used ChatGPT. I've used all sorts of different AI. Anyone who's trying to like say they haven't, or like, oh yeah, how could someone use Grok and actually be successful in doing so? That's absurd. Yeah, they're just lying to you, right? But he's turning into AI. I am AI, dude. I am AI. I mean, do you think I'm a real person? Let's see. Is this guy joining up yet? Is this guy with a doctorate joining up, or is he's where is he at, man? Let me actually try to call him on Instagram. Where is he at? Where is this guy? Dr. William Dion James. I'm gonna give him a call on stream. Dion James, where are you, man? It's ringing, guys. Calling him up right now on the spot. Calling him on the spot. Yeah, he hasn't even seen, by the way, producer, he hasn't even seen the message yet of the link, so maybe that's his issue. He hasn't seen the message yet. Does he not know he's supposed to be joining up? I mean, maybe his issue is also the fact that he's not beating the stereotypes, man. He's not on time. Dr. William Dion James. Not on time, man. Sorry, guys, for all the people joining in just now, we have a BLM activist who's supposed to be coming up and debating me, but all of a sudden he's gone. Maybe someone sent him clips of me debating or something. Maybe someone spooked him. I don't know, man. I don't... Like, how could you know the exact time you're given? Message me like 30 minutes ago, like, yep, I'm ready to go. And all of a sudden you're a no-show. Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. Is this the Biden appreciation page? Yep. You've never won a debate I've seen you in? Dude. Name the debate in which this is what a lot of people do. They're like, well, Matt, you lost this debate, like against Amanda Seales or against this other person. I'm like, okay. What argument that I made was just factually untrue? Tell me how it was incoherent. They never can like tell me how I was wrong, because leftists and liberals don't really have a mind. They sort of operate off of emotionalism and feelings. So, yeah. You got fact check on a fact checking debate. You're talking about the same fact checkers where one of them ended up leaving because they were biased, because they were proven to be biased. Are you talking about that? Well, leftism is awesome. I'm sorry, that's humorous. Like, nowadays, it's just humorous when I hear things like that. It's funny. It's cute. You know, I have to say that, leftists. It's cute when you say leftism is awesome. It's cute. Because I look at Cuba. I look at communist Romania. I look at China under Mao. I look at North Korea. And then you tell me, you know, leftism is awesome. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think it's awesome. But it's cute that you say that, because you're like a westernized, white, 23-year-old leftist, you know. So I get it. I get it. We have to sort of do this like magical fantasy history stuff. I get it. Yeah. There's a guy really crashing out. There's a guy really crashing out in the chat. Rightists love identity politics. Identity politics. Yeah, I think you guys love that. I think far right people love it. Also, far left people love it. You guys both have those things in common. Hold on. Let's have this guy like just let's help them out for a second. Yeah, there we go. What's going on today? You look so bloated. Because I'm eating, dude. I like to eat food. Okay? Like, what do you want me to do? I'm not in Gaza. Like, where's the to get more familiar with my thing. Matt, mid-50s, history professor, leaning far left. Mid-50s, yeah, this guy's probably a troll. By the way, guys, the reason why I'm not letting anyone up right now is because I'm waiting on this Dr. Leon James guy. He's like a doctor who's supposed to be schooling me, but he's like missing at the moment. So yeah. Red or blue, they don't care about you. Sort of like the populist argument. They're all the same. How is the $8K a month? I mean, to be honest, I think that's probably more than what you're making right now. So I mean, it's like, what kind of a gotcha is that? Kind of a gotcha is that? How is the $8K a month? Probably more than what you're making, dude. You may see that in 25 years. I mean, you've been schooled several times by who? This guy's just typing the same thing in the chat. How's that an insult, by the way? Like, dude, if I knew an 18-year-old or 19-year-old or 20-year-old that was making $8K a month, I'd be like, dude, all praise to you, man. You're doing good for yourself. That's great. Micah Kunkel. Yeah, Micah, bro. The GOAT, Micah. Ba, 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 ba. Gotta consume less sodium. Matt for president? Dude, you don't want to see me become the president. Sherry Boniface says, Matt, you are looking incredible. I love you guys. I love you guys. Using fallacies. What fallacies do I use in my arguments? Can you tell me which fallacies I use? By the way, Micah, if you want to come up on TikTok, I'll bring you up. I'm just waiting. Like, we can chat. I'm just waiting on this guy, this, like, black activist to join up. I don't know. It's taking him, like, forever. Dr. Leon James. We're waiting on you, man. You don't know anything? Oh, interesting. Yeah. Yeah, sure. How much does Israel pay me? Well, that guy just said $8,000 a month, right? Surely that's the number, is it not? Is that not the number? But I thought it was like I didn't think it was $8K a month. I thought it was $7,000 per post, is what you guys said. You guys said I was getting paid $7,000 per post, but apparently now it's $8,000 a month. So I guess there was a downgrade or whatever. It was a downgrade. Matt isn't 35. I am 35. What are you talking about? Why do you condone sending billions to Israel when it can be reallocated for domestic use? Well, the majority of the money that goes to Israel every single year is like basically being used domestically. And the reason why I say that is because the annual $3.8 billion, about 70 to 75% of that goes right back to American manufacturing companies that create American jobs. And so it already is being used domestically. Like the majority of that money is being used here. So that's already sort of, you could have looked that up, and I'm just saying that that's the case. Coping for Israel speaks volumes. Listen, I will respect people. These are the people I respect, okay? I'm totally honest. I don't care if you're a leftist, if you're alt-right, whatever position you hold. If you are smart enough to hold a discussion and actually know about the subject matter that you're so passionate about, I will give you respect. I don't care whether or not you're Nick Fuentes. I don't even care if you're whoever you are. You could be Khomeini. You know, if Khomeini were to be resurrected, or the gay Ayatollah, Mojtaba Khomeini, okay? Or Khomeini, or whatever. Oh, we have him here. He's here. Okay.
What's up, man?
Micah, I'm going to debate a BLM activist here in a second, okay? Thank you for coming up. I'm going to probably be debating right now.
Let's go.
So, yeah, you can tune in. By the way, guys, he has his camera on.
Well, I got to get to bed.
All right. Peace out, Micah. Peace out, man.
All right. See you, brother. Keep up the good work, man.
100%. See ya. I got to visit you in California again, but we'll work on that. Okay, guys. So he has his camera on. Okay, if you guys want to actually see the BLM leftist black supremacist I'm going to be debating, go over on YouTube so you can see him. You'll still be able to hear him on TikTok, but you won't be able to see him. Okay, I'm just making sure you guys know that. Okay, he's here. Okay, perfect. We have the audio working perfect, I think. Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly fine, sir. What's up? Okay, we're going to just do a quick test with my producer for just for a second, so just hold on. We're going to make sure the audio and stuff is working well. People on TikTok, do you guys can you guys hear him? He was just talking, so. Okay, Adam says yes. Okay, people are able to hear him over on TikTok as well. Perfect. Yeah, people are saying yes. Okay, beautiful. That's great. That's great. That's great. All righty. Looking good. Okay, I guess we're good to start, right? TikTok's good. Okay, perfect. Yep, TikTok, people already said that they could hear him. All righty. Commence debate. Let's get into it, man. All right, well, let me bring you over here really quickly so we can sort of see you better. Okay, there you go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly fine. Can you hear me well?
I heard you say you were debating a BLM activist. Who's that?
See, that's the thing, is I started off saying, I don't really know where this guy stands. I saw on your page where you said that you wrote a book called Black Supremacy, and you're like a black activist. Some black activists are BLM supporters, some aren't. But I want you to sort of characterize yourself so I don't strawman you. Tell us what your position is.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm not a BLM activist,
Okay.
especially if you're talking about the organization. I think you're talking about the organization.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not. Yeah, no.
The organization, the movement, the sort of ideology that coincides, you know?
Well, I think Black Lives Matter, but I'm not a BLM activist or a BLM supporter because that organization was run by 3 lesbians, and I'm against LGBTQ.
I can agree with you on that. I think the fact that 3 lesbian girls or women, that bought mansions afterwards and that were being condemned by the victims' families, I think that's not a good look at all. And not to mention the fraud that's been taking place with BLM as well. The amount of money that they stole. But let's just talk about this. Like, Black Lives Matter. Yeah, Black Lives Matter. That's a buzzword. I think that, like, all lives generally matter. I don't have an issue with, like, I don't think that we should just have to say white lives matter. I think all lives should matter, right? But who do you think really needs to hear that sort of phrase? Is it white? Is it like a white guy from Utah named, like, let's say Derek? Does he need to hear that Black Lives Matter? Or does Little Dirk in Old Block need to hear that Black Lives Matter? Like, who would you say needs to hear it more? Black kids in black neighborhoods or white kids in the suburbs?
Everyone needs to hear it. What does that mean? Everyone needs to hear it.
I'm saying who needs to hear it more, though? Who should that be? Like, I don't think that white people, and this is not even what I think, it's just a fact, white people are not going around killing black people for absolutely no reason. It's not an epidemic. The epidemic, in terms of gang violence and gang crime in places like Chicago, especially the south side of Chicago, is obviously intraracial. It's within, the black community. And so I think that telling fellow black young teenagers that Black Lives Matter is very much more important than telling just white people. White people don't need to be reminded of that because they're not causing black deaths on a large scale at all.
So you said all lives matter, right?
Yeah, of course.
So who needs to hear that white lives matter more? Is it the black guy in O Block, Little Dirk in O Block, or is it the white person, Jake, in the white neighborhood that needs to hear white lives matter more?
Well, I would say actually both, because a lot of what I've seen from the left, both, because what I've seen from the left a lot is they want to dehumanize white people, that, white people are just colonizers, they're evil. I had a Nigerian guy come up here telling me that white people are like the devil or something. And so I think that, a lot of people in the black community need to hear that as well. And not to mention, obviously, black on white homicide is far higher than white on black, which is another fact substantiated by the NCVS.
Yeah, so white on white, if you're white, you're more likely to get harmed and killed by someone.
Of course, most crime is intraracial. We agree on that, Doctor.
So
most crime is intraracial, but the rates are disproportionate within certain communities. That's kind of the conversation.
That's what I wanted to talk to you about, because I saw in the video that you cited some statistics, and I want to know, where does America get their crime data from? Where do they get the statistics from?
Yeah, there's many different places. The NIBRIS, for example, is one of them. Like, local, state governments basically collect data and they give it to the federal government.
And they give it to them based on what?
Well, obviously, based off of many different factors that go into it. It's not just one factor.
Like, is it based off convictions? What is it? Is it based off arrests?
Like, if you're talking about, well, actually, many different things. Yeah, convictions on the local level, arrests on the local level, many different factors. It depends. It's not like a uniform sort of thing. But before we get into that, just for a second, I want to know more about where you stand. Your book is titled Black Supremacy. Again, I don't want to mischaracterize you. By the way, if you're watching over on TikTok, guys, you can see him and you can see his face and him talking, right, on the Nuclear Reaction YouTube channel. So look up the Nuclear Reaction over on YouTube, and you can see me and him talking, and you can see his face if you want to see him, okay? So what is your book, Black Supremacy, about?
Well, it's about black oppression, and it's about black accomplishments.
Black oppression. But why title it black supremacy?
It's called a hook.
Okay. That's it? There's nothing deeper into it?
I want people to read the book.
Okay. Because I thought, like, no, because even with a title like that, let's say you're not necessarily advocating for black supremacy. When you have a title like that, you know, there could be like a deeper meaning. I haven't read the book, so that's why I'm asking you, because it's your book, right? Like whether or not your book has a deeper meaning to it. But black oppression, okay. Do you feel like you're actively being oppressed in today's society?
Oppression means unfair treatment. So black people are actively oppressed in America, yes.
How am I oppressed in America? If I were to, like, how would you say that I would probably deal with mistreatment on in my everyday life?
I'm talking about systemic oppression. So it's not anecdotal. It's not about individual experiences. It's about on a systemic level. So on a systemic level, education, policing, the judicial system, these are systems that are in fact systemically oppressive to Americans. So for example, when you are sentenced in America, you are far more likely to get more time than a white person who committed the same exact crime. If you compare apples to apples, if we have the same exact, it's called a score sheet. So if you have 2 felonies, I have 2 felonies, you commit armed robbery, I commit an armed robbery. If the perpetrator is white versus the perpetrator is black, the person who's black is more likely to get more time, even to compare apples to apples.
I've heard people say that, but there's a lot of confounding variables that it does not account for. I'm glad that you're more specifying that you're talking about systemic racism rather than just like getting discriminated, just generally speaking, right? Speaking of that, does that account for like socioeconomic status and like someone having more money to pay for a better lawyer? So you're saying that both criminal records are identical from the local, state, federal level, and that these people have the same socioeconomic status, same sort of legal representation, right?
Right.
Okay. Can you reference the study?
Study?
Yeah.
It's the CRJ. It's criminal justice and judicial review. It's when people get sentenced.
Yeah, but I've read that, and nowhere did it mention all of those different variables that I just brought to you. I've had people bring that up all the time, but they never actually show me all of those different variables accounted for, which is the issue. You just mentioned
socioeconomic status. I'm talking about so Judge Sherwood Bauer. Sherwood Bauer. You can look this specific judge up. This is
one specific judge.
This is he did it over several cases.
How many cases? How many cases?
Several.
How many?
I'm giving you the source for people to look up. Judge Sherwood Bauer in Florida.
Yeah.
Specific case. He had 2 people, and obviously he's a judge. He oversees these things, so that makes it systemic. He had 2 people with the same score sheet that I just said. They were found guilty of robbery. The black guy got 26 years, while the white guy got 2 years, and they had the same score sheet.
That's impossible. Wait, guilty of robbery with the same exact criminal record?
Yes.
Okay, hold on. I actually want to see this. Hold on. Let's go ahead and look it up.
Look it up.
What's his name? Hold on for a second. How do you spell his name?
Sherwood, SHERYWOOD, Bauer, BAUER Jr.
Okay, and what's the title of like the case? 2 men convicted of robbery.
Where's my book? Oh, hold on.
Where's my book? Okay, let's go ahead and look it up. Are you talking about 2020? Is this what you're talking about? A white armed robbery suspect was sentenced to 2 years in jail. Okay, 2 years in jail. Okay, and then a black armed robbery suspect was sentenced to 26. This is a Facebook post I see. Let's see if I can get an article on this. I see another Facebook post.
No, look up the judge. It's an actual case. Hold on.
I looked up the judge, sir. Okay, let's see what the summary says. Okay, let's see. Yeah, so yeah, you misrepresented the case. So the white guy cooperated with prosecutors against co-defendants, which is always going to give you more leniency when it comes to the state. So Mr. Dr. Leon James, why'd you leave that out, man?
My name is not Dr. Leon James.
Or Dr. Leon, Dr. William, yeah, Dr.
Dion.
William Dion James. Sorry, Dion James. And yeah, so why'd you leave that out, sir?
That's not being left out. He was found guilty.
Yeah, I don't think you understand, sir. You can be found guilty of a crime.
I can explain it.
You can be filled. Can you agree? Do you agree? Do you agree that if you cooperate in a case against other co-defendants, that you are likely to get leniency in some sort of way? That's sort of how that's sort of your incentive to cooperate and make sure that the state has everything it needs to convict the other guys, right? It's to what they're going to give you is a lesser sentence. Like they're going to give you leniency.
I get what you're trying to say. You're trying to say that even though he was found guilty, so he cooperated, so that's why his sentence was 13 times less. Is what you're trying to say. That's
always how that works, sir. Yes.
So are you trying to say, so deathpenalty.org, why is it that a black person is significantly more likely to get the death penalty than a white person, even when you compare apples to apples?
Okay, now you're changing the topic to a different case. We're talking about this right now. I can debunk the other things in a second. I just want to focus on one thing at a time. So you said apples to apples. Do you agree that if you have two cases where one guy cooperated against other co-defendants and another guy did not cooperate against other co-defendants, that is an explanation for why the sentence and disparities may be different to an extent? Do you agree that that's not apples to apples? One guy cooperating and one guy's not cooperating?
If one is cooperating and the other is not cooperating, and he made a deal with his lawyer that says that he will get less time, then yes.
Hey, that's not apples to apples then.
No, I said if that's the case.
That's what happened. And so do you agree when you said earlier that it's apples to apples, this is not apples to apples at all?
This is apples to apples.
It isn't, because one guy cooperated and the other guy didn't.
He did cooperate. And they removed it off the table.
And by the way, he pleaded not guilty. He didn't plead guilty, right? He pleaded not guilty.
No, I didn't say he pled guilty.
Right, but this is the issue. He received 2 years in jail due to cooperating with prosecutors against co-defendants. Not a co-defendant, co-defendants. So he basically get locked up several other people working with the state government. Of course, that's going to give him
both
more
pled no
leniency.
contest to both pled no contest to 2 counts of armed robbery. They went before the same judge in the same courthouse. Each had a single misdemeanor on their record. They tallied the same exact amount of points on the score sheets used to determine criminal punishment.
Okay.
The sentences were not the same. Also, which one you're looking at? Charles Leitner was 19 when he robbed.
By the way, you're reading. By the way, I'm looking at this PolitiFact with the Facebook thing. It's pretty interesting. I know exactly where you're reading this from. It's from Facebook.
I'm not reading that.
But it also goes on to say that the prosecutor, I'm going to go off with the prosecutor. A prosecutor said that the 2 cases were different because Leitner, I don't know how to say his name correctly, cooperated with prosecutors to convict co-defendants. And so this guy cooperated with the state to convict co-defendants. Of course, that is going to give you leniency. That's always how that works. So when you were trying to say that this was apples to apples, you lied. This was not apples to apples at all.
So we're looking at Judge Sherwood Bauer. So let me read something to you since you're trying to escape Judge Sherwood Bauer. So
by the way, the same article that you're talking about says a Facebook post tries to illustrate that point through a graphic comparing the results of 2 cases.
I'm not reading a Facebook post.
Brother, okay, so are you reading an article that says a white armed robbery suspect was sentenced to 2 years in jail, while a black armed robbery suspect was sentenced to 26 years in prison? Is that what you're reading from?
I'm not reading an article, no.
Okay, because it mentions like the whole thing with the 1 prior misdemeanor. Where are you getting that from? What article? Are you not getting that from PolitiFact.com?
No. Right now I'm looking at the Herald Tribune. That's my source. So look.
It says the same thing anyways.
So listen, Bauer spent his first 3 years on the bench in rural Okeechobee County before moving to a felony court in Martin County in 2008. He has overseen civil cases, substance abuse issues, and mental health matters. He now works in family court in St. Lucie County. Through it all, Bauer has been harder on blacks, according to the Herald Tribune analysis. That's the source.
Yeah, according to a non-governmental organization that is claiming that. Let me read more, by the way. Let me read more.
More than 1,800 cases heard in his courtroom. An analysis of 1,800 cases is a large number of cases, which shows a major impact that one racist judge has had on the community with extreme disproportion in sentencing. So you asked how many.
Yeah, but this is the issue. 1,800 cases. Right. So this is the issue with people trying to like do stuff like that, where they're trying to like sort of fearmonger people and hit these buzzwords. 1,800 cases. We don't like until I look at the methodological structure of how they did that analyzation. Hold on. Until I look at the methodological structure of how they analyze those cases, I can't make a comment on that because. There's so many different variables, and you are a doctor. You should know this sort of stuff.
I know about variables.
There are so many different variables you have to account for. But let me read more.
Sample size too.
Let me read more. Thank you. That's great. And MOE. Do you know what MOE is? Hold on. You know about sample size? Hold on, sir. Calm down for a second. Do you know what an MOE is? Since you know about sample sizes, what is an MOE, doctor?
Let's talk about this. You just said before. Oh, we don't have a number. It's 1,800. And you're talking about apples.
What is an MOE? What is an MOE? You don't know.
You're not escaping away from this. If he, in fact, for 1,800 cases of black and white civilians, if he in fact disproportionately sentenced black people more harshly than white people, is that systemic racism?
No, it isn't. Because unless I look at the variables, no, it isn't. It's really simple. Because if those black people, can you stop interrupting me for a second? I did hear the question. Just stop interrupting me for a second. Hold on, brother. Calm down. Calm down. Okay, perfect. Okay, perfect. The question that you asked, right, was that if in those 1,800 cases involving black and white civilians, if he sentenced black civilians harsher than white civilians, is that evidence of systemic racism? My answer is no, because if those black civilians had harsher criminal records, and depending on the details of those cases, like did they cooperate, did they not cooperate, what deals did they make, what deals did they not make, all sorts of different variables can change. But let me read more about the case that you brought up about the judge, just so we can get deeper into this. Here are the basic facts of the two cases, okay? Leitner, right? This is I believe, one of the guys, right? Robbed men in a 2008 drug deal. Lloyd robbed a Pizza Hut and gas station the following year. Both men pleaded no contest to 2 counts of armed robbery and had open pleas, which means they weren't promised a particular sentence. Each had a single misdemeanor on his record and tallied the same point total on score sheets used to determine incarceration time. Based on their score of 138 points, the state's guidelines called for a sentence of just under 7 years to life in prison. Bauer sentenced Lloyd to 26 years in prison in 2010, and the following year sentenced Leitner to about 2 years in jail, including time already served. David Lustgarten, the assistant state attorney who prosecuted Leitner, told PolitiFact that the defendant's total points on the score sheets don't tell the full story. This is the context. Lustgarten, this is the prosecutor, said he was familiar with the facts of Lloyd's case. Leitner, he said, was one of about half a dozen defendants who were involved in a scheme to approach other men under the guise of buying drugs, but planned to rob him. This is what happened with this other guy, okay? Leitner helped the prosecution build the case against the co-defendants who were armed, including testifying against one at trial. And this is a quote. "I told Judge Bauer at sentencing that without his testimony, I would have never secured a conviction against the 2 bad actors." So the state, in this case, was like, hey, I wouldn't have been able to score a conviction against these other 2 bad guys if I did not have this man cooperating with the state. Okay? The Herald Tribune article alluded to the fact that Leitner cooperated when it stated that, quote, the prosecutor lobbied hard for leniency. So the prosecutor was asking for leniency because he was able to get 2 other convictions because of this guy basically, you know how you say it, snitching, right? And so that's what you want to leave out. And so you want to compare, you want to say that those 2 cases are apples to apples. You know they aren't apples to apples, Dr. Dion James. You know they aren't apples to apples.
So now it's my turn to speak. Okay. Notice I didn't cut you off. So you're trying to run from the fact that this is a racist judge. Bauer handed down, on average, prison terms of 497 days to whites convicted of burglary. He gave blacks with the same exact score sheet triple the amount of time. So we're talking apples to apples, the same score sheet. He gave them triple the amount of time. What do you say to that?
Okay, again, you're one. you brought up this specific case, and now you're bringing up like this analysis that I haven't read yet. I haven't seen the methodological structure of it. It could very much be flawed. And so until I can comment on something that I've analyzed myself, I won't. But in reference to the case that you originally brought up, until you try to change the topic, do you agree that this is not apples to apples? Do you agree? Hold on. In reference to the case that you brought up about the two men with identical score sheets. Right, they were both convicted of armed robbery. Do you agree that these cases are not apples to apples because one cooperated and was able to give the state 2 other convictions and the other didn't? One had the prosecutor asking for leniency and the other didn't. Do you agree that it's not apples to apples, like you said?
It is apples to apples.
He's still holding on to it.
People can look it up. You said yourself that the other guy, both of the guys had made a deal. One's worked out better and one's didn't. It still doesn't signify 13 times the amount of time. One got 2 years and one got 26.
Yeah, this guy got 2. This guy that we're talking about, the white guy, he was able to give the state 2 other convictions. So when you're trying to say this is apples to apples, you're being disingenuous and you're omitting.
It's not disingenuous.
You're omitting. It is disingenuous, right? Either because there's only 2 explanations. Either you knew about these extra details that you happened to leave out and what the prosecutor said, right? Or you were ignorant, okay? If you were ignorant, you can just admit, okay, I didn't know about this extra. Did you know when you first brought this up about the extra details of what the prosecutor said and the leniency because of the 2 other convictions? Did you know any of this stuff?
Yeah, it's in my book.
It's in your book. Okay, so you brought up all these facts in your book, but you still got to the conclusion that it's apples to apples?
They both pled no contest. They both committed armed robbery. They had the same score sheet. They both tried to work out a deal with the state. You're trying to say right now that one worked out better because he got more people convicted.
A plea deal.
That substantiates him getting 24 less years is what you're saying right now, correct?
Just really quickly, you said both try to work out a deal. What deal did that black guy try to work out with the state?
They both were trying to give up other people.
Really? What's your evidence that the black guy was trying to give up other people?
It says he tried to work with the prosecution.
In terms of what?
What do you mean in terms of what? Of giving up other criminal?
Yeah, activity? I don't read that anywhere.
I just told you when I'm reading my case from the Herald Tribune about all of the stuff that
doesn't say that here.
A year-long Herald Tribune investigation used 2 databases. Oh yeah, here we go again. A year-long Herald Tribune investigation used 2 databases, one compiled by court clerks and the other by the Department of Correction to find the racial inequalities in criminal sentencing are rampant throughout Florida. Blacks spend more time behind bars than whites who score the same number of points under the state sentencing guidelines. This is systemic racism. Blacks are also more likely to have their civil rights revoked, preventing them from voting and making it harder to find jobs and housing. This is 2016.
That's just a lie. But let's get back to this. The Herald
Tribune
seems to be a left-wing publication.
Hold
on for a second.
No.
Because you're adding in all sorts of different things that are not even a part of this conversation. Sir, calm down for a second. Calm down.
You calm down.
You're adding in a bunch of damn. Dude, can you relax for a second?
How does the FBI collect their crime data?
Okay, one, when you first came here, I already answered that question, so I'm not going to repeat myself again. I did. Calm down for a second. I already answered that question. See, now you're interrupting me now again. Actually, so if I got it wrong back then, it's interesting because you would have told me I had it wrong, but you actually didn't correct me or say I got anything wrong. So don't try to change the topic now. Here it is again. He's interrupting me. Calm down. You were wrong about the first thing that you brought up. You said this was apples to apples. It's not apples to apples at all. You lied.
It's not apples to apples.
You lied. Hold on. And by the way, Lloyd was the black guy. Do you agree? Lloyd was the black guy in this case?
Yes. Okay.
Okay, great.
Move away from that case because you're trying to hide.
Lloyd's case was a clear because this is the first thing you brought up. Until you get a concession, we're not going to move on from this. Lloyd's was a clear-cut case, said Adam Guzzi, right, who prosecuted Lloyd and recommended a 30-year sentence. Guzzi said he had witness accounts from the Pizza Hut and Sunoco gas station, as well as other witness who had spotted the defendants appearing to inspect another restaurant earlier. Prosecutors didn't need Lloyd's cooperation to convict the other men. That's to convict the other man. That's the difference. Is that the prosecutors in these cases did not need Lloyd, but they needed Legleitner, whatever his name is. So you're going to still tell me, doctor, that it's apples to apples, correct? Hello?
Hold on, I'm looking for what you're reading from.
Yeah, Political Fact. Look up the case on Political Fact. It mentions these things.
Because right now I'm on.
By the way,
Florida
did you hear what
Hold on. Right now I'm on floridacourts.org.
No, go on politicalfact.com.
No, hold on. Florida Courts, Judicial 12, floridacourts.org. And it's saying the article in question compared a number of individual cases where a white and black defendant had been sentenced disproportionately.
Sir, focus. Sir, focus. We're talking about this case.
The only conclusion drawn from these findings by the authors of this article
that's a
that
different
Judge
thing.
Power had inappropriately factored race into the sentencing considerations. So you can't get away from this. This is a .org.
I have a slam dunk for you. Ready? Are you ready for the slam dunk?
Source.
Are you ready for the slam dunk?
What?
So, do you know who Lloyd, the black guy in this case, do you know who his attorney was?
Lamar Lloyd, who was his attorney? No.
Okay. J.D. Lewis was Lloyd's defense attorney. Okay. Now, he was asked about the role of race in Lloyd's sentencing. What do you think he said? Like, yeah, race certainly played a factor, because you believe your conclusion is that race certainly played a factor, correct?
That's not just my conclusion.
I'm not asking you what the other left-wing people are saying. Is that your conclusion? I'm talking to you. I'm talking to brother. I'm talking to you.
Tier 1 sources.
I'm talking to you, right?
Yes.
So,
but according to tier 1 sources.
Okay, okay. So yeah, perfect. You're saying that race certainly played a factor. Lloyd's defense, brother, please. Lloyd's defense attorney said, quote, "I can't personally say there is evidence that race was a factor." This was what Lloyd's attorney said.
So, okay.
Lloyd's attorney say he can't prove that race played a factor. That's what Lloyd's attorney said, and he was his defense attorney.
That doesn't prove anything. You said that to prove
what? He's the defense attorney. You're not the defense attorney, and you guys are reaching two different conclusions. You're definitive about race playing a factor. He can't say there's evidence for it, is what he's saying.
Across a study, an analysis of Judge Sherrod-Bauer's cases, 1,800 cases, they determined.
See how you're changing? I'm not talking about 1,800 cases. I'm talking about these two cases.
No, because the sample size, a large amount is. So would you agree in research? 1,800 is better.
Yeah,
than
more.
One,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I agree. When you're trying to reach a more general thing, I agree. A larger sample size is always better. But this is the thing: the issue with criminal convictions and criminal cases is that there's a lot of nuance and a lot of things that go into it. Like, for example, when you brought up just one example of systemic racism, which was the Judge Bauer case when it came to Lloyd and Legleitner, two white guys both convicted of robbery, one guy sentenced to 26 years, one guy sentenced to 2 years, with similar score sheets, you omitted a ton of important information in just one case. You want to jump to hold on. You want to jump to 1,800 cases when in just this one case, I found like 5 different issues. Okay, one of the issues you didn't mention, I have been naming them, but I'll go ahead and repeat myself again. Please don't interrupt. One of the many issues is the fact that you believe that race definitively played a factor. Lloyd's own defense attorney said he can't find evidence that it played a factor. Another key thing was the fact that you omitted the fact that Legleitner actually cooperated with the prosecutor. Another thing that you omitted was the fact that the prosecutor in the case, right, said that she was only able to get the conviction of 2 other men because of the help of Legleitner. In Lloyd's case, they didn't need his help at all or make any deal with him or anything like that in order to get a conviction of the other men. And so you omitted all of those things in just one case, yet you're trying to jump to 1,800 other cases with their complexities? That's ridiculous.
You didn't name 5. You named 3, and you named 2 twice. You said, one worked, cooperated, and then the prosecutor said, I was able to get 2 other convictions. That's the same thing twice, that he cooperated, is what you just said it differently.
Yeah, I'm getting more specifics, though. I can get even more specifics if you want. I've mentioned a lot of different things.
First of all, they both cooperated. One was just more successful in their cooperation. and that still has
No,
nothing to
that's
do.
not the key issue. The key issue is that the prosecution did not need Lloyd. They needed Leitner to secure a conviction.
Did Lloyd cooperate?
Doesn't say that here, actually.
He did.
Cooperate in what way? When you say
saying,
cooperate, in what way do you mean cooperate?
Snitch.
You're saying, hey, I'm open to it.
He snitched.
Yeah, but this is the thing: is that there was no deal made with him because they didn't need him.
No, they made a deal. It's just that the deal didn't fall through for him.
No, there was no deal ever made.
Yes, it was. The deal didn't fall through for him. So it's like if the other guy, if Chase Leitner wouldn't have been able to get the other people convicted, then that deal would have fell through.
Okay, really quickly.
But he still would have been sentenced far less than Lamar Lloyd, because Judge Sherwood Bauer is known for doing this.
That's a hypothetical. That's you trying to predict what would have happened if the circumstances had been different. But do you agree that given the nuance in this case, to say that it is apples to apples would definitely be a little bit disingenuous here?
No.
Think about it. Really?
13 times less the amount of time with the same exact score sheet. They both cooperated. Like, what are you talking about?
No, one guy was needed. The other guy wasn't needed. One guy was able to get two other men convicted.
So you're saying that the sentencing was as fair as possible, barring the court cases, is what you're saying.
As fair as possible. I'm not the one doing the sentencing. I'm just more honing in on what you were saying.
Matt.
Yeah, I'm not the one doing the sentencing. Me personally, I would have to look at all the details of the case if I was the judge. I believe both of the men probably should have gotten at least 10 years. I mean, armed robbery, I don't know what the hell they were doing.
Okay, then, thank you.
But nevertheless, hold on for a second. But nevertheless,
good guy, Matt.
Oh, okay, just let me finish for a second. But nevertheless, the issue that you're not understanding is the fact that one guy cooperated. And that when you cooperate with the state, you're typically doing that for clemency or some leniency in your own sentencing. He was able to get significant leniency, including time served, because he decided to cooperate in the case and convict two other men. Lloyd was not able to get any other men convicted because they did not need him to testify. Only one of these guys were able to testify in court. Anyway. Let's get back to a few things. Hold on. Let's get back to a few things. There's a lot that we can discuss, man. I really don't want us to get stuck on one thing. Yeah, we're going to reach two different conclusions on this, but I want to ask you more about what you're an activist for. I think you somewhat described it to an extent. I want you to dive deeper so people, because there's always new people jumping in. What are you truly advocating for, generally speaking?
I'm advocating for an end to systemic racism. That's what I'm advocating for.
Okay. If you were made to be the president tomorrow, what's the first thing you change in society?
First thing I would change, I would make improvements to the education system.
Would you say that the disparities between, let's say, predominantly black schools and predominantly white schools, like the disparities between obviously like test scores and all sorts of different things, is mainly due to like things like funding in reference to education?
Well, that's part of it, the funding.
Okay. What percent of the issue would you say is due to the funding, if you could quantify it?
That would be difficult since you have to look at all of the nuance and all the different variables. But funding impacts resources. We know that. So if you don't have funding, that's going to impact the type of teachers, the staff you hire. That's going to impact if your school has a library, computers. It's going to impact so many the sports, different things. So that would be a significant impact. If I could, it's over 50% of the problem.
Okay, there you go. You quantified it by over 50%. So the majority of the issue is due to the funding. Let's just give one example at a time, because I think that when we not just do generalizations, but when we actually try to use a specific point, we can narrow it down and we can actually talk about it. Baltimore City Public Schools is 75% black. They, I believe, receive $22,000 per pupil, $22,000 per student. That's a lot of money, one of the highest in the country in terms of per pupil funding. How come their test scores are lower than the average, for example, predominantly white Utah public schools?
So then you have to bring in so looking at the funding, if you think the funding in the schools now just means that the school is going to be successful, is that what your question before was aimed at? Is because maybe I misunderstood the question.
No, I was trying to ask you what percent of the disparities in school performance was due to funding, and you were able to quantify it to over 50%. I mean, the majority of the issue is due to funding, not super majority, but the majority of
school performance. That's not just funding.
I'm not saying just funding. No, not just funding. Not just funding.
No, but school performance, that's not 50% of it. That's
okay.
Funding is 50% of it. School performance, you have to look at the actual students and the variables within your student body. So, for example, with how many students have IEPs, how many students have 504 plans, those are the most significant things with school performance. The 100% would go towards that with school performance.
Okay.
You know what an IEP is?
Yeah, individual education plan for certain kids with maybe special needs and stuff like that.
You know what
yeah, I'm pretty sure it's something similar to that, right?
Similar, but more behavioral.
Yeah, more behavioral. Yeah, people having behavioral issues. So you're saying that? Are you trying to say that
drugs and things like that?
Right.
So,
are you trying to say that black kids are disproportionately having behavioral issues at school?
No, I'm trying to say that if you look at, I said psychotropic drugs. So sometimes it's certain things that are beyond the scope. It could be cognitive issues. So you have to look at people on the spectrum and things like that. So these are things that are going to impact testing that are the most significant things. If I have a student body where I have 0 kids on IEPs, and then I have a student body where I have 100 out of 200 on IEPs, then I'm going with the school with 0 IEPs.
So you're saying the reason why Baltimore City Public Schools is doing horrible, as an educator yourself, is because of like Baltimore City Public Schools presumably having more IEPs and 504 plans?
Presumably, yes. Percentage-wise per capita, I would say if the school has more IEPs and 504 plans, if you look at the data, the schools with less of those do better academically.
The only issue with this sort of, I think I agree with the general statement. Like if IEP people with IEPs still take these tests, and of course they're going to impact the score and everything like that, the general performance of the school. Even LeBron James School, which is heavily funded, still has these sort of issues, which are predominantly black, by the way. So what you'd have to sort of, I guess, conclude is that the reason why these black schools are doing so horrible, even with so much funding, is because there is a disproportionate rate of people on IEP plans and 504 plans, which I don't even know if that's, I don't know if there's a study on that. Like, I don't know if there's...
No, there's several variables that go into this. So,
but you're saying the main reason for the school performance is the 504 and IEP plans.
No, I'm saying it's your student body.
Yeah, which would, your student body would include the composition of the school, correct?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And you're saying that the people that are affecting the average scores are the people with the IEPs and 504 plans. They are the ones bringing the score down, right? For everyone else.
For everyone else, I mean, I'm saying that's a significant variable. You also
how significant? How significant though? Like when we're looking at test scores between two different schools. Do researchers generally, you're an educator, you should know this more than I obviously do. Do researchers generally conclude that one of the significant, not a factor, a significant factor are the kids on 504 and IEP plans? Because what percent of students enrolled in high school are on IEPs?
That has to be included in the data, or it should be included in the data, because legally, legally, when a student has an IEP, that's how you determine within the scope of their IEP, they could get more time on a test. I'm sure you know this. If a student is struggling and they have an IEP, a test could be 3 hours. They get 4 hours or 5 hours or 6 hours. They get that for a reason. Some students, it could be in their IEP to get a test read to them. They're struggling with certain things test-wise. However, there's significant variables. If the school has a poor administration where the school doesn't put system structures and procedures in place to allow students to be successful, that is significant in impacting student testing. So a lot of these schools are poorly run. A lot of these schools have poor administration. I've been in the schools where kids are running through the hallway, cursing, doing all types of nonsense, and it's not the student's fault. It's really the adults who run the school is their fault for not setting the systems and structures in place. Because I've been in 2 schools in the same neighborhood, and one was an amazing school with the same demographics. You could be black and Hispanic and low socioeconomic status, Title I school, and they're doing well, and then same demographics across 2 blocks, and it's terrible. You have to look at the administration.
Interesting you say that. I looked it up. It's about 15% of students have an IEP. I don't see any data to suggest that those 15% of the students are the ones that are causing the disparity that we see between white and black schools, even with similar funding or with funding where the black school is receiving like a lot more.
I'm not. It's several variables. You want me to list?
Okay, what are apart from funding, because funding is obviously really, I don't think even over 50%. What are some of the other significant variables? Would you obviously said school administration, the student body, the administrators. When if the administrators are black too, though? So
being black doesn't mean anything. Obama's black.
Okay, well that's interesting. You guys say that because people on the left always like to mention representation, right? And how other black people will understand black people better, right?
That doesn't
and know how to deal with the issue. Like, do you think that
mean you know how to run a school better?
Do you think that? I agree with you, but I'm saying this is an argument that is typically heard from people on the left or people that are like black activists like yourself.
I'm not on the left.
Okay, where are you?
I'm independent. I'm not a conservative. I'm not a liberal.
Okay, you're independent. Okay,
yes.
You're independent. So even when they're culturally in tune, what is causing these other disparities? You're just saying that these administrators are ignorant, and if so, why?
Why are they ignorant? Some of them is their own bias, and they just don't know what they're doing. I can't say why.
Their own. What would be their bias if they're black too? What would be their bias?
If they're black, what would be their bias?
Yeah, I want to know.
Okay, well, let me play the game. Sometimes people are biased in the negative towards their own people, and it impacts them negatively. So I'm going to show you how it does this. It goes with a lack of accountability. So let's say the student's name is Johnny. Johnny, black kid, and I'm black, and I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to be lenient on Johnny because he's black. So Johnny punches a kid in his face, and instead of suspending him, I'm going to say, you know what, let's give him another chance. And then he comes to school tomorrow, he punches a kid again, and I'm going to say, you know what, let's give him a chance. That's biased in the negative. You get it?
So you're saying that is happening in these black schools?
I'm not saying it's happening in all schools, but I see schools where it's like they have an accountability problem here. And in some schools, that is happening. If I was in charge,
I think I can agree with that. I think I can agree with that.
If I was in charge, that wouldn't happen. When I was worked in a high school for 5 years, I've been a dean, I've been different positions. I don't allow that nonsense. You're going to control yourself. I don't allow excuses. I come from low socioeconomic status. Not that low. I don't want to make it seem like I was, poor. We were middle class. We were humble, though. Both of my parents were maintenance workers. I've told this story. So I come from this. You're not going to be in my school causing trouble and distracting others. I'm going to hold you accountable. Your parent's going to have to come in. If your parent doesn't come in, I'm going to the house. I'm going to where you live. If you live in a shelter, I'm going there. I'm going to speak to who's in charge and who's responsible for you to get your behavior under control. A lot of times people don't want to put in the work and they don't want to do these things. They want to give kids slaps on the wrist. They curse a teacher out. We send a kid to the office. They send them back with snacks. That's a poorly run school.
I agree with you. I don't have any disagreements here. I was just obviously asking you what you think the disparities are caused by, and I was just trying to make a general point that I don't even think that funding accounts for maybe 30% of the disparities. That's just my point. But I mean, you bring up those other factors. How can I disagree with that? I think accountability. I think accountability is certainly a factor. Yes.
But I've worked in these schools where funding is a factor. I've worked in high schools that don't have libraries. That's just crazy. How do you not have a library? Like they have no library and no computer lab. That's going to impact everything.
Let me ask you, since you're an educator, I think you should know this. What mainly affects district funding?
The community that you're in. That's going to affect the funding.
Well, property taxes, right?
Yeah. Higher socioeconomic communities get higher funding.
Okay. So you're telling me that if properties, hold on, if you're telling me that low demand areas with depreciating property rates are going to obviously receive less funding. Do you agree with that general sentiment?
Yes.
Okay. So when we have places like the south side of Chicago, would you say the south side of
Yeah,
Chicago
well,
has?
look,
Hold on for a second.
look,
I want to follow this through.
I want to throw in
Come on,
something
man. I just
that-
want to flow.
but I want to
follow
throw
this
in
logic through
something
for a
that
second.
impacts it, because when you have students that have certain conditions and certain things like IEPs, you get more funding for that kid.
I agree with
IEP
sure
gives more funding than a kid without an IEP. Do you know that?
Yes, of course.
Okay. So now you can continue.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. And so, would you say that in the south side of Chicago, funding there is low or high?
I don't know the south side of Chicago. I'm not from Chicago. I don't
Okay.
know.
Okay, well, south side of Chicago is not known for being rich or wealthy. So I'm going to assume that it's pretty low there. What else happens in the south side of Chicago, right? Well, carjackings, teen takeovers, robberies, murder, gang violence, sectarian sort of crime. And so if property taxes and asset values within an area like that in businesses, all of those different things that give the local government money to pay for those schools, if those things don't exist, of course, this funding is going to be less. And so don't you think that trying to get people in these communities to stop doing all of this crime would help with funding as well? Because if I refuse to open up a business in the south side of Chicago because King Von, who's dead now, by the way, would rob me or rob my business, right? If the people from O'Block may rob my business, I'm not going to open up the store. And if I don't open up the store, then people aren't receiving food from the store. And if that's the case, people are also not being employed here. And if that's the case, people are going to be poorer. And on top of that, I'm not going to be giving any taxes from my business because my business won't exist to the local government that would then fund the school. And this goes on and on with all sorts of different businesses and properties and so on. So don't you think trying to get all of these people in the south side of Chicago to tone down the crime would help a lot with funding too?
Yeah, we should get these communities. A key factor, a key variable with crime is low socioeconomic status. Whether you're Black, white, Asian, Native American, a key aspect of crime is low socioeconomic status. We agree?
I agree that it's a key aspect of crime, but I think that it's overstated and it's sort of overused. And the reason why I say this is because I saw a study that was done, and it was actually quite concerning, where it said that the top 1% of Black families, let's say with a household income of over $1 million, if they have a son, that son is just as likely to be incarcerated, right, as a white household of an income of $30,000 or $35,000. Sorry, if that white household were to have a son, that son would be just as likely to be incarcerated as the Black son. And so I think that's concerning too.
What study is that?
I can bring it up. Give me a second. It was posted. Hold on, just one second. Let me cite it. Okay, let's bring it up. So this is from Equal Justice Initiative. You can look this up. And there's also another source here mentioning the same thing. The Washington Post also posted it, by the way. Poor white kids are less... well, this is what it says here. Yeah. So yeah, go to Equal Justice Initiative. It says this. So I'm not saying that it's not a factor. Of course it is. Being born in a poor area with low funding and all of those different things are going to be a factor in whether or not you commit crime or whether or not you're more compelled to commit crime because of your circumstances. But I don't think it's necessarily as large as people say it is. Yeah, Prison Policy Initiative. It says right here, Black men raised in the top 1% by millionaires were as likely to be incarcerated as white men raised in households earning about $36,000. And it shows its household income rank of parents. And this is 2018. Racial biases in the criminal justice system don't only apply to poor people, according to research from Harvard, Stanford, and the Census Bureau.
So racial bias is the cause? Because you said it says racial bias.
Well, yeah, it says biases, right? And so it's not just socioeconomic status, but I think this is a really big gap. A big gap. $1 million household compared to $36,000.
So you're saying racial biases even impact the wealthy Black people?
No, that's what their conclusion is. It's not just obviously socioeconomic status, obviously, that there's also a racial biases component. I don't necessarily think so. I think that when someone
I'm
makes
glad you
over
brought
$1
that
million,
up. Thank you.
hold on. Yeah, I'm saying that. Well, the gap is still pretty pronounced, right? I think that when people say it's just socioeconomic status, $1 million to $36,000 is a pretty big gap, right? And so if you're just as likely, if not more likely, to be incarcerated than a guy that poor, then what else is going on there, right? What else is going on? Well, you may say racial biased. No, I don't think that the guy that was born in a top 1%. No, I'm saying this is what they're basically saying, that these are the other variables which we think may be making the difference, basically, is what they're saying. My perspective is I don't buy it. Yeah, my perspective is I don't buy it. I don't buy that.
So you're saying you don't agree with the source?
Okay, you're not understanding what I'm saying. You have to try to just comprehend it.
No,
just try to slow down, comprehend it for a second.
Your source said racial biases, correct?
Okay. So this source is saying that top 1%, if they have a black son, just as likely to be incarcerated as the poorest white families, okay? And their conclusion is that it's obviously not just socioeconomic status, or that's not even like really one of the largest factors like you mentioned, right? They believe that racial biases may play a factor. I don't have to agree with every single proposition within a study, right? But I think that this key point sort of removes the severity of socioeconomic status that people try to act like there exists. But in terms of the racial biases, walk me through this.
It says that racial biases.
Right. Walk me through this.
Yeah. So yeah, we agree. That's a good source. Thank you.
No. Walk me through this. What would cause a kid from the top 1% to be incarcerated just as likely, on average, than a poor white kid?
Systemic racism.
Really?
Yeah.
What systemic racism
you walk me through it.
What systemic racism is an affluent black kid facing?
The same things that's in a system you can't avoid. So the educational system is
he go to private school. He's rich.
All right, if he goes to a private school.
But he can also go to a predominant he can go to a historically black college, HBCU, right?
First of all, I'm talking about K through 12.
Okay, K through 12. But there are also private schools through in terms of K through 12 that he could go to. What's stopping him from going to one?
Could go to. Not all rich kids go to private school.
Okay, that's the parents' decision. But nevertheless, you're telling me that him going through K through 12, I would believe, because his family is wealthy, I would assume that the school has good funding. And if it doesn't, and his family has the money, they would send him to a school that does have good funding.
Good funding doesn't stop systemic racism in the educational system. And within the school, he's facing systemic racism. Okay, there's always something. Okay, continue on. Yes.
There's always something.
So yeah, the curriculum is systemically racism. It's predominantly Eurocentric, and it's told from a Eurocentric lens that is detrimental to black kids. So for example, in 2015, it was discovered that McGraw-Hill textbooks was conveying the transatlantic slave trade as a great migration. Do you see how that's detrimental?
Yeah, let's just talk about this for a second. You're saying Eurocentric. No. I went through K through 12. I'm not that old. I'm 19 years old. And
you got to answer the question.
It was a great migration. It was obviously still slavery, but it was a great migration.
What?
But
slavery was a migration?
Yeah, people migrated. Are you saying it's false?
No, define migration.
People moving from one area to another.
So if you kidnap someone, they migrated?
If you kidnap, I'm not saying it's a good thing or justifying it. If you kidnap someone in North America and you brought them over to South America, or a bunch of people, yeah, there was a migration including. It would just be called an involuntary migration, but it'd still be a migration. So, but nevertheless, hold on, stop for a second. Let me give you my example. You've given me a single anecdote. You've given me a few anecdotes. Okay, you have to let me get in here for a second. You've given me a few anecdotes. Let me also respond with my anecdote.
I didn't give you an anecdote. I gave you a fact.
I'm saying generally in this conversation, well, we can talk about Hannah Nicole Jones and the 1619 nonsense, right, in a second. But just hold on and let's finish up this conversation. I'm talking about the anecdotes you've been giving me throughout the conversation, because you've been telling me a lot about you and as an educator and what you've done and stuff like that. Okay, so my perspective by the way, when I was in high school, was that I was given this sort of, I don't know how to even describe it, this illegitimate perspective of slavery, that white European Anglo-Saxon men got on boats and just came across West Africa, and they went into the interior of West Africa, grabbed a bunch of black people and put them on boats. That's the conclusion that I got to by learning it from history, okay? Going to school in Florida, okay? That's what I thought until I started doing more research about it, and I learned that, well, there were people like King Gaizu, monarchs like Queen Nzinga, who were selling hundreds of thousands of slaves to the Europeans, and they were proud of it, and they didn't want to stop it, and they believed that it was enriching their people. I was never taught that at all. I was also never taught the story of the guy from Angola. You can rub your head all you want. The guy from Angola, his name is Anthony Johnson, who was actually one of the first men to have permanent slaves in America, who was a black man also. I was never taught that, right? And so I was never taught the crucial role that Western African traders actually played during the slave trade. Never taught that perspective either, right?
Are you finished? Because you didn't answer my question.
It's funny how you can keep rubbing your head all you want. This is not going to change the thing. I already answered your question. Yes, it was a migration. Involuntary migrations are still migrations.
No. All right. So, but the McGraw-Hill textbooks, first of all, pulling the migration along is crazy and wrong, incorrect.
Why?
But they didn't. Listen, they didn't say involuntary migration. They called it a great migration in McGraw-Hill textbooks. Do you say that? Would you agree that is disingenuous? And
was it a great migration? Yeah, I think so, man. I think going from zero black people in North America to over 40 million now is a pretty decent migration that has happened.
So
the trans-Saharan slave trade was also a migration.
Let me make sure I'm getting this question correct.
Many migrations came through conquest and slavery.
You don't see it as detrimental to black youth to learn about the transatlantic slave trade as simply a great migration.
I'm not saying as simply a great migration. I'm not saying it was simply a great migration. You always have to have phrases and texts for certain things, obviously. I think that the majority, I'm around black people all the time. I think that the majority of of black people that I know, the way that they perceive slavery or that I've talked to, is they view it not from that Eurocentric Great Migration lens. They view it from the typical lens that we hear, right? It was that Europeans, evil, came there, stole us, took us from our kingdoms, brought us to North America, enslaved us for hundreds of years. That's the typical thing you get. And so even if that case is exactly how you're saying it is, even if that's true, that would seem like an anecdote to the general perspective, because the majority of people that you're around, you're an educator. You know how black people actually view slavery. They don't just view it as just a simple great migration. That's it. You know how they actually view it, right?
No, sure. I don't know how every black person views it, because you clearly
on a general sense.
But you would agree, if in the textbook it says that it was a migration, it doesn't throw in the fact that these people were brought over here involuntary and whips and chains, and they were defecating, menstrual cycle, urination, all on each other, many of them dying on their way over here. If it doesn't include that information, you would agree that is detrimental, correct?
Well, I think, I want to be historically accurate, which leftists hardly ever want to do. I would want to include all of that information. By the way, would you also agree that it should include, do you also think it should include King Gaizu, who is the king of the kingdom of Dahomey, who said that slavery was the ruling principle of his people and that he did not want to end it after selling hundreds of thousands of slaves to the Europeans? Do you think it should also include that black man who said that?
It should be historically accurate. It can include it all.
Well, you're giving the same answer I gave, but be more specific. Do you think it should specifically include that Queen Nzinga, who was an Angolan monarch, sold hundreds of thousands of slaves to the Portuguese and to the Dutch? Do you think it should also include that in there?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, perfect. So it took both parties to participate in it. It wasn't just bad Europeans, right? It took both parties to participate in it. We agree. We want all the context in there, including including the participation of Western African monarchs who are enriching themselves. By the way, do you know that the British had to set up the British Squadron? They didn't want to. The Black African monarchs did not want to end slavery. He said it was the ruling principle of his people. the British had to literally patrol the coast of Western Sub-Saharan Africa to prevent black people from being taken by the Portuguese or the Spanish, who had yet to actually end slavery. They were the ones to end it. The African monarchs never wanted to stop it. They loved it. They were enriching themselves and making money from it.
All right, that's, you can talk about that. We can talk about the tribal warfare.
Add all that, by the way, add all that context in there too, right?
Yeah, let's talk about the tribal warfare. Talk about the tribal warfare in Africa, so that people don't get it misconstrued. People be like, "Oh, well, your people sold your people." First of all, when it's tribal warfare and you look at yourself differently, and there's thousands of different tribes and ethnical groups within the continent of Africa, where you got Igbo and you got people who are Nigerian and different. It's different. It's 52 countries. It's different.
Different ethnic groups. Yeah,
so
Africa is the most diverse ethnic places.
If you're going at war with someone, and then I take you as a war captive and I sell you off, I don't look at you as my people. So that's
totally fine. But what they're talking about is, by the way, you do this just really quickly. Yes, we get it. Plenty of different ethnic groups in Africa that don't see themselves as the same just because they're all technically black or whatever, right? The same way you guys should not be blaming all white people for slavery because not all white people participated.
Who blamed all white? Who's you guys?
I'm just talking about black activists in a general sense.
I don't blame all white people for slavery. I blame the white people who are responsible for slavery.
And okay, perfect. Okay, perfect. Name those white sailors and slave traders from 200 something years ago. Name them right now.
Henry the Navigator.
Okay, name another one.
He was one of the first ones who went to Africa in 1444. And I want you to include when you.
So you blame, but you blame him. You blame him, and you hold on. You blame him. Hold on, really quickly.
You told me to name white one.
Yeah, perfect. You blame him, but not his descendants, correct? No, I agree with. Wait, really quickly.
You told me to name white ones.
He did. Christopher Columbus did not go to Western Sub-Saharan Africa, which is what I was asking you for. But nevertheless, you're right. He did enslave people that were Native Americans here. Really quickly, you blame those men that died over 170, 100, maybe 200. If we're going to Columbus, I mean, we're even going farther back than that, right? You blame all of those men, but not their descendants, correct?
Their descendants, the people who are.
You blame those men, but not their descendants, right?
I blame some of their descendants.
There it is. Because I would have an issue if you want to.
You think they don't have any descendants that were KKK?
Yeah, maybe they did. This is your fearmonger again. Black people nowadays don't have to.
The KKK is still relevant.
Okay, name a single descendant that you know from any of those men who ended up becoming KKK leaders or anything like that. Name one.
So you asking me? Oh, I have to be able to track their lineage. No, I can.
Stop. This is the thing, dude. Stop blaming white people if you don't even know. If you don't even know, stop blaming white people. Then
that doesn't make what? That doesn't make sense. You blame the system. You blame the system.
Yeah, but this is the issue.
You don't blame little individual people.
I don't think the system is racist at all, though. That's the issue. I don't think the system is racist.
You see how you name Anthony Johnson? Who was before Anthony Johnson? Did you name Hugh Gwynn?
You can name all of them.
You can name all of them. Do you know Hugh Gwynn?
I don't know him specifically, no.
Okay, so he was the first white slave owner. The first slave owner in America was Hugh Gwynn, a white man.
Well, I think if I'm not mistaken, Anthony Johnson was second to him, or maybe third, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, because
right?
What people don't tell is that Anthony Johnson, who came over here, his name was Anton. He was an indentured servant when he came over here.
Yes, and eventually he was able to be free because during the time, black people were not necessarily property or slaves for life. He ended up obviously getting himself to a higher socioeconomic status, and he also had servants himself. And one of his servants tried to run away, and he was able to get a court to make his servant servant for life, which is basically like the story of him having a slave. Right, I know the story. Yeah.
So Hugh Gwynn was before him, he did a similar thing where he was able to keep his slave for life. So he was before him. So that's a lot of times I get in debates with people and they be like, well, did you know the first slave owner in America was black? And they bring up Anthony Johnson.
I didn't say first. I said one of the first.
No, I know. I'm not talking about you. That's why I said people. They need to know true history, know the truth about Hugh Gwynn so that they don't say things like that. I want to deal with the facts and the truth.
Okay.
So like when I say the curriculum and I bring up the case of McGraw-Hill textbooks, McGraw-Hill, McGraw-Hill textbooks, which are distributed across America, and they're not the only company. but they have this false narrative that is detrimental to describing something very important as the transatlantic slave trade is going to impact the brain of people. It's going to impact the way Black kids view themselves. That's why we
totally fine. I don't want them to view themselves as victims. And if we're going to talk, we can talk about
victims.
The 1619 Project from the New York Times, Santa Nicole Joe.
Hold on, let me. As victims.
Yeah, I actually don't want Black kids to grow up just saying, oh, man, my ancestors were slaves and they were brought here. It's like, yeah, they can know that as a fact of history, but I don't want them to hold that against themselves or their people for the rest of their lives. Because guess what? Hold on, brother, for a second. I don't want them to hold. Yeah, he's showing his book. Guys, make sure you guys read his book, all right? I don't want them to view themselves like that for their entire life because guess what? The Armenians went through a genocide and they have a country today, right? The Jews went through a genocide and they have a country today, right? There was a trans-Saharan slave trade. There were so many ethnic conflicts within Africa. All sorts of different people went through slavery and genocide and all of those things. It doesn't mean you have to be a perpetual victim. I'm not saying you want them to be perpetual victims, and I don't want them to see themselves as perpetual victims, which is why I condemn things like the 1619 Project. Are you familiar with it?
Matt, why did you just say?
Do you know about the 1619 Project?
No, you just said. See, okay. Hold on. I want to say
you can't admit when you don't know something. That's crazy.
You just said no. You just said Jewish people have a country. The Balfour Act gave them a country. They were giving a country. That's actually false.
It's not. By the way, the Balfour. This is where you're not going to trump me. So it was the Balfour Declaration. Hold on, brother. Hold on, brother. Hold on, brother. Hold on, brother. Hold on. Let me answer. That's wait. What year? Hold on. What year was the Balfour Declaration?
1948.
No, 1917. So you were just wrong there.
The Balfour Act. Let's look it up.
There was never a Balfour Act. You're talking about the Balfour Declaration of 1917, which was written by Arthur Balfour, representing the British government, and it was a letter to Lord Lionel Rothschild, representing the World Zionist Organization. That's what you're talking about. And it was not an act. It was not even a legally binding document up until the League of Nations mandate for Palestine, I believe in 1922. The Balfour Declaration basically said that the British government supported a Jewish national home in that territory. That's what it said. But it never directly gave it to them. If you want to go over to like the history of Israel, I'm going to destroy you on that, sir, with all due respect.
So it says creation of Israel, 1948 on history.
Yeah, but you said the Balfour Declaration was 1948. That's false.
No,
it was 1917.
I'm saying it when it gave them the land.
The British never gave them the land. That's also just false.
What? What are you saying?
Oh, you read did you read the cartoon History of Israel or something? I've read the actual history.
I'm on history.state.gov. Creation of Israel, 1948. On May 14, 1948, they've been...
Yeah, what year was the Balfour Declaration?
What year was the state of Israel given to them?
Your original... This is the issue with you, dude. You can never focus on the topic. Your original claim... No, I am on the topic. Okay, your original claim was the Balfour Declaration gave... Okay.
They were given... Your original... In 1948 is what I said, and it's what this source says.
Okay. You're just not listening. Your original claim, try not to interrupt me again. Your original claim was the Balfour Act, which is what you said. Not even an act, it was a declaration and a letter, but nevertheless, you didn't know that. You said the Balfour Act gave Israel the state, or gave the Jews the state in 1948. That's false. The Balfour Declaration was in 1917. It was at the time was a non-legally binding letter from Arthur Balfour to Lord Lionel Rothschild, representing obviously the WZO. And basically, it was like, hey, the British government supports a Jewish national home in this land, and we will basically use efforts to try to facilitate it, like migration. They actually never ended up giving the Jewish people a state. They ended up leaving before. Israel declared independence May 14th, 1948, and the British left disgruntled. Right? They didn't leave giving them a state or anything like that. So you're just wrong on that, but I don't want to dunk on you.
Well, how did they get the land? How did they get the land? They just took it from Palestine? They just took it from Palestinians and stuff like that? Or?
No, they were migrating there legally under the British Empire, right, for decades upon decades. There was the first and second Aliyah also that happened that were being funded by the Rothschilds, which were benefactors, right? So they were funding Jewish migration to the land.
You said they were being funded by whom?
By the Rothschilds, right? Okay. So the Rothschilds were benefactors. They were being philanthropic, and they were giving money for Jewish people facing persecution in Europe to go over to the land of Israel and start living there instead. And so they were migrating there on boats and ships, and they created businesses, industries, and so on and so forth.
And it was funded.
Yeah, by other Jewish people. What are you confused about?
In power.
I mean, wealthy, prominent people. Yeah.
Money and power. So when you brought this up and they were given a
money and factor is not a bad thing.
They were given a country and you brought this up and they were funded.
Actually, that's also not true. They were never given a country.
Why'd you bring up this example?
You're just wrong. They were never given a country.
Because you were naming like you named someone else too, and it was a comparison to black people. And you do this.
I named the Armenians. I named the Armenians going through the Armenian genocide and them having a country today. I named all sorts of different people that went through stuff that have a nation for themselves and have built themselves up ever since.
So, and you did that for what? To prove
to give you a general point that I don't want black children to see themselves as perpetual victims, but rather people that can make a life for themselves and make their own history today, and not just have to remind us that they went through slavery 200-something years ago. We get it. You and I never, me and you never picked cotton on a cotton field, getting whipped, or were forced to like do any of the. We never had to live like that. So let's stop pretending that we did. Right? We live in 2026.
Matt, we could come to a common agreement on certain things, but it's when we get to this stuff the way it goes the other way. So I too don't want black people just looking at themselves as victims. This is why in my book I talk about the significant contributions that black people have made throughout society and history with our contributions to GPS, to dry cleaning, to the doorstop, Garrett Morgan with the gas mask stoplight, all of the significant things that we've done. You know, Eugene Russell with his contributions to cell phones and cell towers, the great things that we've done. So you don't just look at yourself like a victim, like we can do great things and you motivate yourself to do great things. But when people talk about like after the Emancipation Proclamation, black people were just set free and everything was okay and it was hunky-dory, that's where the problem,
no one ever says Jim Crow didn't happen. Jim Crow happened. Do you know what happened? Do you know what the federal government did actually? Hold on. Do you know what the federal government and the union did immediately after black people were emancipated, though? Do you know the program that they gave them immediately? The Freedmen Bureau. Are you talking
about the Freedmen's Bureau?
Yeah, the Freedmen Bureau. Yeah, the Freedmen Bureau. You know it because you know about history, right? And so that obviously was not perfect or necessarily a whole lot, but it helped like feed black people, educate them, get them clothes, get them housing, stuff like that as well. Now, again, no one's going to deny that Jim Crow didn't happen or that this discrimination didn't happen or anything like, or the Triple K. But even the Triple K, like how many people do you think were actually lynched by the Triple K?
From starting when they were founded in 1866. Are you talking about from 1866 to when?
Yeah, until now. How many people?
Are we counting people who have went missing? Like that's
just people that were proven to have been killed by the Triple K.
People proven to have been killed. I think the number is between 4,000 and 5,000, something like that.
How many young black men have died since 2010 because of gun violence?
We're talking about proven cases.
Young black men that have died because of gun violence, just died because of gun violence. Whether the murderer was found or not.
Since when? From when to when?
2010 and now.
2010 and now.
You think more or less than 4,000? I want to get the exact number. Let's get the exact number.
Probably 100,000. You're not going to get the exact number.
How many, or close to it? How many?
You're not going to. But look.
Hold on. How many young black men have died since 2010 from gunshots? Let's look it up.
Some of them were killed by white people.
Presumed, some of them, sure. So the leading cause of death, obviously, we know that. An exact comprehensive cumulative total of young black men who died, we obviously don't know yet. But annual averages, on average, about 4,900 black males of all ages are killed with guns each year in the United States. So let's round it up, 5,000. 4,900 are killed every single year.
Yeah.
The majority of them obviously being killed by other black men. 5,000, let's do it times 16. That's 80,000 men. If we presume that it's about 5,000 men dying every single year since 2010. So 80,000 young black men, or just black men, have died because of gun violence by other black people over the last 16 years. And from the KKK's founding, from 1866 to now, it's like hovering maybe over around 4,000, maybe 4,500, depending on the source. And so this is the issue. Hold on for a second. This is the issue, sir. Hold on. This is the issue. Don't interrupt me. No, hold on. This is the issue. Hold on. This is the issue. My issue is that why am I consistently... Hold
Go
on. The Triple K is irrelevant. They have like 4 members now, if that. Okay, why do we keep hearing about the Triple K this and fear-mongering this and Sundown Town this? The real Sundown Town where black people are getting murdered, south side of Chicago, Detroit, Michigan, Boston, Massachusetts. We can go on with these different places. Los Angeles, right? We can talk about Compton, all of these different places. That is the real epidemic. You need to go to those neighborhoods and tell those young black men, your life matters. Don't shoot your brother. Don't shoot. Go to Trayvon and tell him not to shoot Deontay. That's who needs to hear it. We don't need to hear about this fear-mongering of the Triple K and this. We don't need to hear that fear-mongering. These are the real numbers. 80,000 deaths, nearly 100K.
Okay. I agree. In the black community, we need to stop gangbanging. We need to stop gangbanging communities. I always call gangbangers, I call them predators. I call them no different than child predators. That's what I say. So you got to get familiar with me. I'm not trying to make the argument with that. But when it comes in, I want you to answer this question. How many people? So in 2006, the FBI released a statement that law enforcement had been infiltrated by white supremacists. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, some so-called white supremacists,
okay.
Sure.
So how many people do you think have fell victim to white supremacy, especially in law enforcement, going from...
Very few. Very few. Actual proven white supremacists that went... Yeah, actual proven white supremacists, I think very few.
You're saying proven white supremacists, but that's the thing. When it's in a system, I'm able to hide it. A guy just went viral.
Oh, they're just hiding it. Okay, they're hiding it.
Yeah, you're able to hide it. Judge Sherwood Bauer just so happened to get exposed. But we know, during Jim Crow in the 1940s and 50s, when those KKK members were walking around, we know that a lot of them.
We don't live back then, man. We live now. We live here now. I don't know where you guys are getting this from.
Those people are living now.
Okay, this is the issue. Yeah, and those people. Okay, name a single person that was enforcing Jim Crow that lives today that is actively still oppressing black people. Name a single person
that lives today that lived during Jim Crow. So you're trying to frame it that way. We know what. Is it true that during the 1940s and 50s, KKK members were political people, doctors, police officers? Is that true?
Sure.
So
to an extent.
I can't name any of them from that time that specifically. Same way I won't name someone today because they walk around with masks and they're not showing you who they are.
There are like 5 of those. They're like 5 people nowadays, man. They're like 5 people. KKK members? I'm being hyperbolic here, but practically,
be literal.
No, hold on. Practically, hold on. I'm being hyperbolic, but practically, there are like 5 people. For example, hold on.
Let's get a number.
Right? Yeah, their numbers have been diminishing, and they're totally politically irrelevant nowadays. But for example, there is a white nationalist group. I believe their name is Patriot Front. They were marching in D.C. on the 4th of July. There were like barely any of them. They were totally irrelevant. They do nothing. I've looked into the research about their membership rates. They were struggling to get people on Discord.
So their numbers are
like 200.
5,000 to 10,000.
Okay. And what were their numbers? What were the numbers back then? Let's just look it up. Let's just look it up, right? KKK membership over the years. Let's look it up. What does it say over the years? Yeah, just super duper small. 1950s present. Today, the KKK has no central organization. Civil rights watchdogs like the watch group, like the SPLC estimate that membership has shrunk to a few thousand active members split across tiny, isolated local factions. They're totally irrelevant. By the way, the SPLC is its own little joke because they were funding these white nationalist movements, by the way, which is also another thing, being funded by Democrats. But I know you're not a Democrat, so I won't get you on that one. Yeah, but dude, they're totally irrelevant now. No one even went. I never dude. Trust me, I live in Florida. Plenty of black people here. I don't know the last time. I can't name you the last time. I can't name you any time in my life actually where I had a black person tell me they were worried about the Triple K. They're so irrelevant. It's like 5 people.
Matt, don't focus it on the KKK. White supremacy in general, because you have different groups that don't call themselves the KKK who are white supremacists.
Like what groups?
The Proud Boys, all of these different groups.
The Proud Boys, weren't they being led by a Mexican not too long ago?
A white Hispanic?
Okay, tell me.
Like, what was the name of the group that you said? What was the name of the group that had the mass that were just marching on July 4th?
Patriot Front.
So what are they?
But okay, really quickly, I did research on Patriot Front, right? I think their leader is Thomas Rosal, if I'm not mistaken. They were stuck at like 200 something members for for years on end. Those groups are so irrelevant, dude. They're full of incels. They're irrelevant. No one cares. Like, it's irrelevant. Like, I don't like go outside and I'm like, okay, I'm at Nuclear. I'm black. Let me look out for the Proud Boys, or let me look out for Patriot Front. Or no one lives like that anymore. We have to end the fear mongering, man. You know who I do have to look out for though? You know who I do have to look out for though?
Who?
I don't wanna like drive through the wrong neighborhood here in Florida and get caught in the middle of a shootout between Trayvon and Devontae. That's what I don't want to happen. I have to worry about that more, or getting robbed or getting mugged. I have to worry about that more than I do Triple K members or Patriot Front. Bro, no one cares. It's like they just want to feel thrilled. It's like, yeah, let me get this shield and run around and tell everyone how big I am or whatever. That's it. But no one's worried.
Matt, I agree. We already agree on that.
They have no power.
You already agree we have to work on that. I already agree with that. I'm not one of those people that are going to.
And by the way, you're giving them power. By the way, can I say something? You're giving those people power, and a lot of just black activists are giving them power because they're irrelevant. They are like basically 5 dudes running around, maybe posting meme things on X or Instagram. They don't materially affect your life at all. They don't change your life. You're giving them a whole lot of power. They're struggling to find people on Discord, and you're giving them all this power, how tough they are. They're totally irrelevant, dude.
Matt, they want you to think that their numbers are something that they're not.
Oh,
they're
my
not
God.
They're not going to be.
We're talking about leaked documents. Leaked documents show that Patriot Front has been struggling to get members. Leaked documents.
So, do you remember what was the name of that KKK leader dude, the Grand Wizard?
Forget his name. Someone in the chat will probably remember his name.
What's the one I'm thinking of? I had wrote about it.
Someone said Bird.
David
Duke.
David
Someone
Duke.
got it in the chat.
So,
Yeah.
do you know how sneaky David Duke is? Do you know that he wrote a book under a black
Democrat, by the way. Mm-hmm.
You know, he wrote a book as it was something like Brother X or something like that, portraying to be a black guy. And he wrote a book, and then everyone who ordered the book, he wrote their address down, and like he had their name down like as people to kill in case anything happened. Did you know that?
Okay. How many people were killed?
From that,
Name a single person that was killed.
None that I know of.
Exactly. Name the last proven. Hold on. Name the last proven KKK lynching that happened.
Proven KKK lynching.
Yeah, name the last one.
Stamp their name on.
No, not stamp their name on. Proven. We're not going to work with people just saying this happened, or I think this happened, or I don't think black people have the ability to hang themselves. Name the last proven KKK lynching.
Matt, that's kind of irrelevant.
Exactly, you can. But guess what? I can name you the last shooting that happened. Probably a shooting happened an hour ago. Someone was just shot in the south side of Chicago.
You can't
and we know what the demographic. So this is the issue. It's like you guys are not focused on the real issue.
The last shooting.
But yeah, because there's so many of them, right? One just probably happened.
Matt, I can't name the last.
Someone's getting shot at right now in the south side of Chicago as we speak.
That's not the way to ask these questions. I don't like to play games. It's like
it's not about playing games. The reason why you can't name the last Triple K because it's not something you have to worry about, man.
Name the last time. Name the names of the last white person that got shot, or name the
because if it was an epidemic, if it was an listen, if the Triple K killing black people was in any way an epidemic, we'd hear about it all day long. Hold on, this just my producer just told me this: 4 dead, 20 injured, in Chicago weekend shootings, according to CPD, Chicago Police Department. The victims, the ages of the victims range from 5 to 61. This was over the weekend. Dude, not a single black person has been proven to be killed by the Triple K in like well over 30-something years. We just had this weekend, and if I put your line, like this is what I'm talking about, man. It's like
But
priorities are just wrong, man.
Yeah, but you said you've heard of this stat when the FBI said in 2006 that law enforcement had been infiltrated by white.
Yeah, they didn't say it to a large level. They said there were some guys they were posting white nationalist things on social media,
and it was enough for them to put it. So if those people are law enforcement, isn't it easy for them to cover up a crime that they commit?
Cover up what kind of crime? And almost all police officers are required to wear body cam nowadays.
A kidnapping, a homicide, any crime. Isn't it easier for someone who's law enforcement to cover up a crime than a natural civilian?
Well, of course, but there's also procedures and hierarchy and stuff that has to happen. But again, prove that these things are happening. Don't just prove that it can. I don't think it's really that easy.
No, because if they're infiltrated, because it happened during Jim Crow, and we know it happened. It's been proven.
Okay, so that's totally fine, but we don't live... okay, listen, one, what you're talking about, I think that article only mentioned like a few police officers. That's one. Number two, yeah, dude, I don't think that those, like, what percent of the police... What percent of the police department... What percent of police officers do you think are diehard... Huh?
Is there systemic racism in America?
Certainly not. No, not at all.
Was there ever systemic racism in America?
Yeah, at one point, sure.
When did it stop?
When did systemic racism stop on a legal, conspicuous basis? Civil Rights Act of 1965 basically stopped it.
So systemic racism in America...
coinciding with the Voting Rights Act of 1965 as well. Yes. So
it stopped in 1965. Is that your final answer?
On a systemic level, on a systemic legal level, of course. I'm not saying that all acts of discrimination on any level that may include systems stopped back then. And if you can prove that it's been happening, you can go ahead and point those organizations or corporations or government organizations out, and you can sue them like BLM likes to sue, right? But another thing that you're not understanding here, another thing you're not understanding here is that it's actually the hold on for a second.
You said
these corporations nowadays are operating on racism against whites and Asians, right? Universities are no longer just denying black people. They're basically admitting black people because they're black. The National College Attainment Network, when affirmative action was a thing, you can do this all you want.
No, because they defined affirmative. I can name them, and then you cut me off from naming them.
No, I'm saying I didn't ask you to literally name them. I'm saying that you can always name them and sue them and punish them for breaking the law. You can always do this. We have litigation in America. You can sue someone for breaking federal statutes against discrimination. No one's stopping you, because in all countries there are laws that people can break, that people can be punished for. Okay, but nevertheless, ever since black people have been getting welfare, DEI, affirmative action, being hired because they're black, being admitted to colleges because they're black. Do I not get privilege for being? I have black privilege.
So
I'm more likely to go to compare this. According to the Association of American Medical Colleges, I am more likely with on average a lower MCAT score. No, you're gonna let me finish this. On average, with a lower MCAT score. Okay, Dion James. What am I supposed to call you, right? So on average, with a lower MCAT score, I am more likely to get into medical school in comparison to a white or an Asian, because I'm black. That's black privilege.
Okay, Matt. Now, the Tuskegee syphilis experiment ended in 1972. That was the government infecting black men with syphilis. That ended in 1972. And it never would have stopped. It never would have stopped if it wasn't for a white woman news reporter who broke the story. So
another pivot, man.
How did that?
Another pivot.
That was systemic.
Another pivot. This is the issue.
No, it ended in 1965.
I said really quickly. I said, legally speaking, referencing discrimination, yes, it did end that way, but that doesn't stop people from breaking the law. And another thing is that I'm pretty sure people have told you this before. Yeah, the government sometimes breaks the law. Do you agree?
Yeah, and when they predominantly do it against one race, that's called systemic racism.
But nope, that's not what happens, though. That's not what happens. This is your issue. They don't predominantly do it. No, they don't predominantly do it against one race. That's totally false. Of course not.
Who else was victim to the Tuskegee experiment other than black people?
No, you're mentioning one specific thing, right? I'm saying, generally speaking, the government does bad things to all sorts of.
from 1932 to 1972
We
when
live in two. Hold on. Just a
That's
reminder. We live in
systemic racism.
2000. We live in MK Ultra. Was that against black people too?
when did redlining stop? When did redlining stop?
Exactly.
When did
Well,
redlining
officially,
stop?
voting. Yeah, so the Housing Rights Act of 1966 officially stopped it. By the way, do you know that redlining disproportionately, like actually, the majority of people that were affected by it were white people? Jewish
No.
people, Italians? Yeah, they were. Yeah, they were.
No. You know
Yeah,
the
they were.
Levitt brothers? William Levitt, how they created Levittown in Pennsylvania and in New York, and they had deeds that said "Do not sell to Negroes." Do you know about them?
Can I ask you a question about that?
Sure.
Because people mention white flight all the time. I want to get a little philosophical here with white flight. Why have we never heard of black flight?
From where?
Let's say black people moving out of a neighborhood when white people move in. Why have we never heard of that?
Black people moving out of a neighborhood when white people moved in.
Yeah, why have we never heard of that happening? Like the opposite of what we typically hear.
You're saying we hear about white people leaving a neighborhood when black people move in. We don't hear about black people leaving a neighborhood when white people move in.
Yeah.
Is that what
Why
you're
do
saying?
you think that's the case is the question.
Why we hear about one? I think one is more prevalent.
Yeah, I've never heard of anyone say, yeah, you better not buy a house here. So many white people are here. Or you better move out of here because so many white people are coming in. Now, I'm not saying that anyone should move out of any
Is
neighborhood.
one more
when
prevalent?
Oh, I think most certainly. I think the other one is almost certainly non-existent. But
Well,
the
wait, which
reason
one?
why I
Which one?
think
Which one?
black people moving out because white people move in, I think that's practically non-existent. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because of the psychology of it. I live in a mixed neighborhood with black and white people. I would say it's probably predominantly black, but it's a pretty chill neighborhood. It's in a nicer area. I don't understand why white people would move if they just have good, law-abiding, tax-paying, non-criminal fellow black neighbors. I don't think that people move because of that. I think people move because of crime, because they hear gunshots, they have to duck, they have to lock their doors at night, which everyone should be doing, by the way, in the modern times. But they have to worry about so much crime, and they have to worry about loud music. And also, I think that's why people move. I don't think people move just because, oh, these people that are of a set different color are moving in. No, of course not. And by the way, even they will tell you that. Do you think that the typical argument that is given is, oh, this person's of a different race? No, they're going to lay out problems that are disproportionate. I don't know where the music is coming from. Yeah. They're going to lay out problems that are disproportionate within certain communities that makes them want to leave. Okay?
Matt,
So
back to what you were just saying. I got a
do you
question.
think they're moving? By the way, do you think they're moving just because they're black, actually? Is that your position? Do you think they move out just because they're black?
I think in some cases they just move out because they view black people as less than, and then when they see us moving in, they're like, well, it's time to go. You know, there goes the neighborhood type of thing. They just view them as less than before they do anything. But I want to ask you a question.
Just a
If you
blank,
already-
just blank like that.
If you live in a wealthy neighborhood, so do white people who live in wealthy neighborhoods, do they move when black people move in?
Possibly. Yeah. Possibly.
Yeah, but possibly, but we have no proof of that.
No, I'm not saying that we don't have any proof of that. Possibly. I think that it may occur.
Yeah, but
It
we don't.
depends.
Have
I think certainly at lower rates.
we don't have any proof of that, though.
I'm not saying that we don't have proof, or we do
don't.
have proof.
There's no proof of that.
I think most likely if they do move out, it's at a very, 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 it's a much lower rate. If it's a very wealthy and affluent
There's
place. Do you
no
want to know
proof
why?
of
By the
that.
way, do you want to know why?
Why?
Do you want
What?
to know why? Because they know that person is affluent. That person is wealthy, and wealthy people are less likely to commit crimes.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Oh, so you're saying it's not just a racial thing? They're not. You're just proving my point because you're proving my point because if white people, so hold on, if affluent black people move into neighborhoods where there's predominantly white people and they're like, I'm not going to move out because this black person is probably doing well for himself and rich. I don't think he's a criminal. He's moving into a wealthy neighborhood. Then you're saying it's not just because of melanin content, which is very reductive. It's more about socioeconomic status, right? And how they view the socio aspects of things, how you behave socially speaking as well. I think is very important. I disagree that the issues that people have with different races actually comes down to melanin content. No, I don't think that's what the case is. I think the case is that melanin content is like white people see black people see white people, and people recognize behaviors within different populations. But I don't think that the real issue anyone ever has is this person is just a different color. This is where all of the issues lie. They're just a different color, okay?
We know some people are racist, and we know some people just feel that way.
Wait, so have you spoken to racists?
Have I spoken to racists? Yes, I have.
Out of all of the racists that you ever spoke, by the way, I'm not a racist. I don't even know what that really means nowadays, because some people may call me a racist. I don't know, because it means so many different things nowadays. What really is racism to you? So
look, we already said, just so we already agreed that we know that there's a correlation between crime and socioeconomic status. We know
correlation, of course, yes, correlation, undoubtedly. Like, that's not the only factor, but of course there's a correlation, sure.
Yeah, we know that you're more likely to commit all types of crimes, murder, drug dealing, robbery, home invasions, when you are from a low socioeconomic status. And that just that makes sense. If you have $1 million in the bank versus someone who has negative 200, it makes sense. So we know
build wealth. Yes, build wealth, make money.
Yes, build wealth. So that's what I'm talking about. When we look at the systemic issues, that when people with the Levitt brothers in Levittown in Long Island, New York, they didn't let black people buy houses that were worth $8,000 at the time. They're now worth $712,000, $800,000.
Well, you can buy houses. You can buy those houses now.
Yeah, but you couldn't if you bought them then, and the black people couldn't buy them then. And now, say your grandparents gave you the house, and the house is paid off. You now essentially have $700,000 to $800,000 that a black person couldn't build. They couldn't build that generational wealth because of a systemic issue that was in the 1950s and 60s. This is not
generational wealth. Let me ask you, speaking of studies and data, there was a 20-year study that was done on generational wealth, and they concluded that 70% of generational wealth disappears by the second generation. Did you know that?
How much? How much?
70% of generational wealth disappears by just the second generation. So I'm not saying that lingering effects of systemic racism can't explain.
What was the name of that study?
I can find you. It's a 20-year study on generational wealth. You can just look that up and you'll find it immediately. I read it a while ago. Just 20-year study on generational wealth. But the interesting part, and by the way, it's very comprehensive. The interesting part about this is the fact that, again, does it account for some variables? Of course. But does it account for all? No. I think very little. I don't think that black people make less than white people because of slavery or Jim Crow or systemic racism or redlining. The same way that I don't think that, because if I did, I would have to somehow explain how the East Asians that also face discrimination make more than whites on average. And then I'd also have to explain why the black Nigerians that come here somehow are able to sort of get through the systemic racism and make more than black Americans. None of that makes any sense to me. Like, can you explain why do black Nigerian immigrants make more than the average black American?
All right, I can explain that. So the reason why you're saying that per capita, we have to look at apples to apples. Again, it's nuance and things, right? When the black Nigerians come over here, for one, their population is significantly smaller than black Americans. Two,
that's not true.
Yes, it is. Two, when
there are more black Nigerians than there are. Are you talking about generally or just in America?
In America.
Okay, yeah, but we're doing per capita, per person anyways. What are you talking about?
No, calm down. So in America, there's far more black Americans than Nigerians. Two, when those people come over here, they have to get a visa and things like that. They're sending over their best, their elitists, they're top of their game that come over here. And then those people get all types of grants and things like that to open up businesses. If I were to compare the top elite black people to just the Nigerian population, then you would see the same exact thing. We're factoring all of the people who face.
Yeah, but that's not actually true.
And then hold on, I'm not finished because you brought up Asians. Asians too, that's a logical fallacy because they also didn't experience the level of discrimination and the things that black people
not enough discrimination.
From slavery through Jim Crow with the black code laws and all of the discrimination with banking, redlining, the criminal justice system, all of this, the discrimination that went against black people. The Levitt houses said, don't sell to Negroes. It didn't say don't sell to Asians. So you're talking about a whole bunch of information that
certainly
black
had
people-
nothing to do with the behavior between both of those different groups. Okay,
No,
let me
'cause
respond.
in
Let
the
me respond.
1950s and
Let me
60s,
respond.
Black people were at their peak. Were we
So
not?
you're saying model minorities. Wait, you're saying in the 1960s, black people were at their peak?
1950s and 60s, we were doing better than we are now.
Oh, so you're a black activist saying that during Jim Crow, during segregation at one point as well, during that time period, right? Because it mentions the 50s, during redlining. So during all of those different systemic barriers that you faced, you were doing the best. So why don't black people just get put back in that place then?
No, I didn't say we were doing best. I said better. And the thing is,
why? So you're saying when black people face the most systemic racism, they do the best?
no, I'm going to tell you what happened.
How are they doing better? How are they doing better than? Do we have more freedoms now than we did in the 50s and 60s?
Yes.
Then how are we doing better back then?
That's part of the problem. We were so now. listen. We commit more crime now.
You're a black activist saying this. You're a black activist saying that black people were doing better when the system was the most systemically racist. That was before the Voting Rights Act of 1965. So you could put all sorts of different litmus tests to vote within states, right? During obviously Jim Crow, during segregation, when you weren't allowed to go to the same school as whites, right? During that time period, during redlining, during that time period when you said the Triple K was at their highest in terms of political elite, they were the police chiefs, they were the governors, they were the mayors. Black people were doing better than they are now. So why don't we just put black people in that same position according to your own logic?
No, that's not according to my logic. I'm talking about in terms of crime and in terms of abortion. We were committing less abortions and less crime. So it's very specific.
But you're saying we were doing better generally. You didn't say we were doing better in those two specific things. You were saying generally they were doing better.
No, because those are two significant things destroying our community. How many people die? How many babies die each year because of abortions? And how many people die each year because of crime?
Hold on, give me a second. I'm trying to find something.
And then,
yeah, no, I agree. A lot more. Yo, you're actually agreeing with me. Yes, I agree. Abortions are horrible.
Look, let me get into it. Because Margaret Sanger, who was a racist, she put Planned Parenthoods in black communities. That's part of the systemic issues. So if you would listen to me, you would realize you agree with me with a lot. But I'm attacking the systemic issues. You're
a black activist. Can you do me a favor? Can you relay all of this information that you're telling me that I already know over to the black, like, radical leftists? Would you mind doing that? Because they need to do that because they're all for abortion. So,
yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I'm against abortions. I'm against drugs. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I'm against gangbanging culture. I'm against
the same way.
I'm against ratchet music culture. I'm trying to tell you something. I'm a truth teller. I'm not one of those people who want to play games. I really want to relay the facts. The systemic issues are an issue, but within the community and how black people have chosen to let it continue to impact them is a discussion that we need to have.
I think that you know who's going to fix it. I agree with you that there are issues within the black community, like social and cultural issues that need to be dealt with. I don't think that the system is racist. If you're going to bring up things like Planned Parenthood, that may be the unique situation where I may agree on that, obviously, being a big issue. But yeah, I think all of the different familial issues can be handled internally. I don't think the government's going to help.
What about the war on drugs?
Nowadays, I don't think that. I think that
no, not now. When the 1980s, when they had the disparities between cocaine and crack.
Okay, you're going back in time all the time to find some issues that were going on. I think the war on drugs was generally a good thing, though. The same way with the three strike rules was also a good thing because I want criminals off the streets.
But Matt, when we look at those laws, and they knew that black people were predominantly going to be caught with crack. And
were they disproportionately possessing it?
Crack, yes, and white people had.
Okay, cocaine. Well, that explains it. That explains it.
No, but look, white people had cocaine. It's one decimal of a chemical that separates the two substances, and you would get 10 times the amount of time.
How about not carry crack?
But why not sentence the white people to 10 years for cocaine if you're going to sentence the black guys to 10 years for crack?
I didn't make the laws, but how about none of them do either?
I'm telling you, when we look
if you already know the system, this is another thing about ignorance. If you already know the system is against you and they want to do extra punishments on you or whatever, why would you possess it at all?
Matt, they shouldn't possess it, but they were putting it in the communities too.
No, they weren't. That's a myth. They weren't putting it in the communities. What are you talking
Let's
about?
look at this.
Okay, well, this is interesting. I'm not gonna take anything out of your book to be factual. Okay.
No, because I'm gonna get the source.
Another thing is this also. Okay, you're saying they were putting it in there. What they were airdropping it, like, you know, when they were airdropping it. They were airdropping it. They were airdropping it. Sure, they were airdropping it. Anyway, another interesting part I want to look at is, like, you're saying, people will say, well, they were putting drugs and all of that sort of stuff and narcotics in the communities. They were also putting books in those communities. They were also putting physics books. How many people were picking up those physics books?
Hold on, listen to this, Matt. So,
how many people were picking up the physics books?
Hold on, listen. Former LA police narcotics officer Michael Ruppert alleged in the mid-1990s that the CIA was directly involved in running drugs throughout the United States, corroborating information presented in
police
the book.
Officer? That was it? He was not a federal officer at all?
Police narcotics officer. Hold on.
Okay, local police officer.
Dark Alliance by investigative journalist Gary Webb, whose death by 1994 by 2 gunshot wounds to the head was deemed a suicide. Michael Ruppert coincidentally committed suicide in 2014. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, there was an introduction of the promotion of drugs such as cocaine and crack.
Hold on. We don't need a whole session, dude. Just hold on for a second. We don't need an entire session.
Well, what do you say to that if he said that, and then it was already an investigative journalist already said that they were put into the black community?
One guy who was not even a federal agent, who I'm not even sure of the evidence that he was able to provide saying something doesn't mean anything, because with all due respect, it's really not all that hard to become a police officer. And it truly isn't surprising at all in this day and age when people decide to lie for views and clicks and money and fame and accuse.
That was in the 1990s.
Let me ask you, yeah, people were lying for fame back then too. Let me ask you, what was his most damning evidence for his accusations against a Central Intelligence Agency? What was his most damning evidence, since you read about the case?
His most damning evidence?
Yeah, for the CIA putting drugs in the black community intentionally.
Let me see specifically what he says. I don't want to lie on the guy.
Okay. Because he's making a claim, but this is the thing. I really don't believe claims from anybody. I don't even care if you're the president. I don't believe just claims, guys. I believe evidence for the claims. So I can say that I cured cancer or breast cancer, or I went to the moon today. That does not matter. Even if I'm Matt Nuclear, who, to be honest, I'm not really famous or anything, right? At least not yet. Semi-famous, I guess. Even if I'm the CIA director, which would be a lot more. This guy's a local police officer, okay? Evidence is what's important, not just claims. So you read about him, right? What was his most damning evidence for the CIA actually putting drugs in the black community? Because he said it as a police officer, not even as a federal agent. What was his actual evidence for that?
So, okay. So here's a case. I don't know if you want me. Let me look and see if
not a different case. That guy, like, find me. Okay, look up that guy on Google. Look up that guy on Google. That police officer that made that claim, and ask Google what his most Google AI, whatever. It doesn't even matter. Ask them what his most damning evidence was. Look through all the sources, any article. Like, there's. By the way, you are reading from your own book. Why didn't you know what his most damning evidence was?
Because I was relaying it through the investigative journalist who had more findings that he wrote a whole book about.
He merely made the accusation, dude. He merely made the accusation.
And he's on their team.
Yeah, that's actually no, because federal officers don't have the same jurisdictional authority that state officers have. I'm
not saying they do. I'm saying he's law enforcement.
Okay, but not all law enforcement is the same. Comparing the CIA to a local police officer is silly and a false equivalency fallacy. And on top of that, he made the accusation. What was his evidence?
So what if he was what if he was doing it himself?
So you're saying that he was doing it himself, because obviously you said he was a narcotics officer, but he didn't have any evidence of other people doing it. And the reason why he didn't provide evidence of him doing it was because he wasn't trying to snitch on himself. Is that what you're saying?
No, because I'm saying Michael Dodd. Are you familiar with Michael Dodd?
No.
He was an officer in the 75th Precinct in Brooklyn, New York. and he was.
Let's focus on the first officer, though. Let's focus on the first officer.
Okay, I don't know his most damning evidence.
Okay, can you name? Oh, hold on. The first officer you brought up, because you always like to pivot to someone else. Yeah. The first officer you brought up, do you agree? Not even just damning. Can you name any piece of evidence that he had to substantiate what the CIA did, supposedly?
The evidence that he had.
Yep, about his claim that he claimed the CIA were doing operations to put drugs in the black community. What evidence did he have of that?
Because
here we are. Person? Yep. By the way, I'm going to wrap up my show here in a second, so let's make sure we can do this.
John N. Ricklickman, President Nixon's counsel and assistant for domestic affairs, revealed in 1994 the real public enemy in 1971 was not really drugs or drug abuse. Rather, the real enemies of the Nixon administration were the anti-war left and blacks. So that right there is someone who tells you that they were targeting the black community.
Enemies of did I hear that right? Enemies of the administration?
Listen, I'll say it again.
Yeah, they were saying that black people were the enemies of the administration, right?
President Nixon's counsel,
okay,
and assistant for domestic affairs revealed in 1994 the real public enemy in 1971 was not really drugs or drug abuse. Rather, the real enemies of the Nixon administration were the anti-war left and blacks.
Okay, what does that have to do with your original claim of that police officer that claimed that the CIA was putting drugs in the black community intentionally to arrest them?
That has to do with him supporting what Nixon's administration said. He's supporting that they were targeting the black community.
Okay, those are two different claims, right?
No, they're not.
Let's say that's true. No, targeting the black community does not mean that you're intentionally putting drugs there as the CIA. By the way, the guy that you just gave me that was on his counsel is also not a CIA agent and never was.
He's his counsel for Richard Nixon.
Yeah, for domestic affairs, not a CIA agent. Okay.
So what?
I don't.
He said that they were targeting.
You're not able to focus, dude.
No, you're not able to focus.
No. This is your issue. This is your issue.
Why would he specifically say that their enemy is the black community?
Okay. One, even within his own statement, I'm not defending him, even within his own statement, he said that the issue is not drugs or drug abuse. And he never once there said that, hey, we, as the Nixon administration, are planting drugs there. Never said that. He said that the enemy of the administration were blacks and anti-war leftist protesters. That is not the same thing as we planted drugs in the community or the CIA planted drugs in the community, which is what you claimed. Okay, so you're just wrong there about what you said. Anyway, so we're pushing on 2 hours. So
why did he say that? Why did he say that?
That's an entire, I don't know, that's a totally different thing.
Oh, do you see that as detrimental to the black community, him saying that?
Yeah, but I don't think that's the same thing.
It is.
Bro, I can't believe you're an educator. You're a doctor? And that's how your logic works?
Ad hominem?
I don't know, bro. I don't know. This guy's a doctor, but he doesn't understand how he's skipping through claims. How old are you, sir, by the way?
One supports the claim.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't even follow. But are you? Yes. How old are you, sir?
How old are you?
19. How old are you?
36.
Okay.
I'm not sure how that's relevant.
God bless you, man. God bless you, man. All right. Good conversation. We may disagree.
That's detrimental, though.
Yeah, dude. It's like I'm asking you. I asked you originally for evidence of a particular claim. And you know what? Never mind, dude. Never mind. And you skipped something else. Okay.
No, I answered.
Nevertheless, dude, we may just. Okay, sure. We may come from two different sides of the aisle, and we may disagree, but we've been having a 2-hour conversation. I respect your profession, you being an educator, you giving your own insight as a black activist from a non-leftist perspective. If anyone wants to check out this guy's book, it's titled Black Supremacy. It's probably really interesting. And thank you for joining me and being willing to have discussions, because I want more people to be be willing to come on and have discussions with me about these very polemical topics. So I want to praise you for that.
Thank you. Where is this at? Because I don't know. It says, are you on YouTube right now? Where are you on?
I'm on YouTube, TikTok, on the Nuclear Reaction. Yep. And on X as well. YouTube, X, and TikTok is where I'm currently streaming.
And this is live on YouTube right now?
Live on YouTube, live on TikTok. Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I wanted to discuss more things like reparations and stuff like that, but maybe we could have a discussion again.
Yep, maybe in the near future, man. But anyway, I appreciate you for coming on, and I appreciate you having this discussion with me, because at the end of the day, we may disagree, but it's always important that we are for free speech and for actually having contentious conversations about these really important issues. So I praise you for coming on. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. Alrighty, guys. And that was that. That was that conversation with the black activist guy. His name, you can look him up on Instagram. His name is, let me see, Dr. William Dion James. He has a doctorate. He's an educator, martial artist, activist, author, world traveler, and has a book titled Black Supremacy. Anyway, guys, thank you for tuning in to the Matt Nuclear. Well, not the Matt. Oh, I was going to say the Matt Nuclear Show. The Nuclear Reaction, episode 11. I will see you on episode 12 tomorrow from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. See you then. And stay researching, I guess. Peace out, guys. Where's the...